The moment you decide to become extraordinary is the moment everything begins to shift. Not someday in the future when the conditions are right and the timing feels perfect and all the pieces have finally fallen into place. Not when you have more experience or more resources or more confidence or more of whatever it is you've been telling yourself you need before you can really begin. Right now, right at that instant when the internal decision is made, something changes. Something moves. And today I want to talk to you about a principle that has the power to genuinely transform your life. Not one area of it, not just your career or just your relationships or just the way you feel about yourself in the morning, but all of it, all at once, because that's how deep this goes. It sounds simple when you first hear it. It might even sound too simple. But I'm asking you not to let the simplicity fool you, because the most powerful things almost always are simple. Here it is. Act as if you are the best. Act as if no one is better than you. Act as if the highest version of yourself, the one that performs at the greatest level, that shows up with full commitment, that carries genuine confidence into every room and every situation, is not some distant possibility, but the reality you are already living. Now I need to stop right there for a moment because I know what some of you are thinking, and I want to address it directly before we go any further. This is not about arrogance. Let me say that again clearly, because it matters. This is not about arrogance. It is not about thinking you are superior to the people around you. It is not about putting others down so you can feel elevated by comparison. It is not about walking through the world with a swollen sense of your own importance that makes you difficult to be around and impossible to learn from. None of that. This principle, at its core, is about something entirely different. It is about elevating yourself. It is about stepping fully and deliberately and without apology into your own potential. It is about choosing, as a conscious and intentional act, to think and behave and operate at a higher standard than the one you've been settling for. When you act as if you are the best, you are aligning your daily actions, the small ones and the large ones, the visible ones and the ones nobody sees, with the version of yourself that performs at the highest possible level. Think about the elite performers you've observed in any field. The athletes who have reached the very top of their sport, the leaders who walk into rooms and immediately change the energy of those rooms, the creators who produce work that genuinely moves people. There is something different about the way those people carry themselves, and if you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed it. It isn't loud. It isn't showy. It isn't the kind of confidence that announces itself the moment someone walks in and demands that everyone take notice. It is something quieter than that. It is certainty. It is presence. It is the particular quality of someone who is fully occupying the space they're in rather than apologizing for being there. They walk into rooms like they belong there, not because they've convinced themselves they're better than everyone else in the room, but because they've stopped convincing themselves they're less. That distinction matters enormously. That is the difference between arrogance and real confidence. And that is precisely what this principle is building toward. Now, perhaps you're sitting with an objection. Perhaps you're thinking, but I'm not the best yet. I haven't earned it. I haven't proven it. The results haven't shown up yet. How can I act as if I am something I haven't become? And here is my response to that. Good. That is exactly why this works. Because when you act as if you are the best, you are not pretending about what has already happened. You are rehearsing what is going to happen. You are training your mind to believe in a version of yourself that hasn't fully arrived yet, but is on its way. And here is what happens once you do that consistently. Once the mind begins to believe it, the behavior starts to align with it. And once the behavior aligns with it, the results begin to reflect it. It becomes a self-completing, self-fulfilling process. You don't wait for confidence to show up before you act confidently. You act confidently, and confidence develops as a result. That is how it has always worked for the people who have genuinely built something real. Let me give you a specific, concrete situation so you can see exactly what I mean. Imagine walking into a job interview carrying a full load of doubt. Your posture is closed in on itself. Your voice is uncertain, a little too quiet, a little too hesitant. Your thoughts are scattered because underneath every answer you give, there's a question running. Am I good enough for this? Do I actually deserve to be here? And here is the hard truth about that scenario. Even if you have every single skill the job requires, even if on paper you are the most qualified person who walked through that door all day, your energy is communicating something else entirely. It is communicating insecurity. And insecurity is contagious in the worst possible way. The people across the table from you feel it. They can't always name it, but they feel it, and it colors every impression they form of you. Now imagine the same situation, same room, same people across the table, but this time you walk in with a different mindset running underneath everything. You walk in thinking, I am the best candidate for this role. I belong here. I have something genuine to offer, and I am going to demonstrate it. Watch what changes. Your posture opens up because there's nothing in you trying to make yourself smaller. Your tone becomes clear and grounded because you're not apologizing for taking up space in the conversation. Your answers become sharp because your mind isn't split between performing and doubting. It's simply performing. You are no longer sitting there hoping they choose you. You are demonstrating calmly and confidently exactly why they should. And even if that particular job doesn't come through, you have already won something. You practice confidence. You strengthened your communication. You raised the standard of how you present yourself. Those are real gains that stay with you regardless of the outcome. Acting as if you are the best is not about pretending indefinitely. It is about practicing until what you've been practicing becomes real. Because human beings are adaptive creatures. We are not fixed. We are not locked into the version of ourselves that exists right now. You do not become confident by sitting still and waiting for confidence to descend upon you from somewhere outside yourself. You become confident by acting confidently, repeatedly, until the acting and the being become the same thing. You do not become disciplined by thinking about discipline. You become disciplined by doing disciplined things day after day until disciplined behavior is simply who you are. This is the mechanism. This is how identity is actually built. In the beginning, it is going to feel uncomfortable. It might feel unnatural. It might feel like you're trying on a version of yourself that doesn't quite fit yet. That is completely fine. That is exactly how it is supposed to feel at the start. Growth always feels unfamiliar in the beginning because you are, by definition, in territory you haven't occupied before. But repetition changes identity. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are. This is not a philosophy or a metaphor. It is the literal architecture of how human personality and behavior are formed. The things you do consistently are the things that become you. And here is something that most people genuinely overlook, something that I think is one of the most important parts of this entire conversation. The world responds to your energy. It responds to the signal you're sending out about how you see yourself and what you believe you're worth. When you carry yourself like someone who knows their own value, not someone who is performing value for an audience, but someone who has genuinely internalized it, people around you respond differently. Opportunities that weren't appearing before begin to appear. Conversations shift in tone and substance. Doors that looked fixed and sealed begin to move. Not because you have tricked or manipulated anything. Not because you have created some kind of false impression. But because you have changed yourself, and the changed version of you draws different things into its orbit. That is not mystical. That is just how the world works. This principle also does something very important to your inner voice, and this might be the most valuable thing it does. We all have that voice, the one that says you're not good enough, the one that says you can't do this, that you're out of your depth, that who do you think you are to attempt this particular thing? That voice feels like truth because it knows you. It knows your history. It knows every time things didn't go the way you hoped. But here is what you need to understand about that voice. It is not truth. It is conditioning. It is built from past failures and old fears and the habit of comparison and the accumulated weight of doubt. It is a recording, not a reflection of reality. And recordings can be overwritten. When you act as if you are the best, you begin the process of overwriting that old programming. You replace the phrase "I can't" with "I will figure it out." You replace "I'm not ready" with "I will become ready" through taking action. You replace "Who do I think I am" with "I know exactly who I am and what I'm working toward." And over time, with enough repetition and enough consistent action, the new voice grows louder and the old one grows quieter. Eventually, the new voice becomes your default, the one that fires first, the one you hear before the doubt has a chance to get started. But let me add something important here, because I don't want this principle to be misunderstood as a license for self-deception. Acting as if you are the best does not mean ignoring your weaknesses or pretending your flaws don't exist. In fact, it requires precisely the opposite. Look at the very best performers in any discipline. They are more deeply aware of where they need to improve than almost anyone else in their field. They don't shy away from weakness. They study it. They return to it. They dissect it and attack it and work on it with a level of honesty that most people find uncomfortable to even watch. So when you adopt this mindset, what you are combining is confidence with honesty. You are saying simultaneously, I believe fully in my potential, and I will work relentlessly to close the gap between where I am and where I'm capable of being. That combination is extraordinarily powerful. Confidence without the drive to grow curdles into arrogance over time. The drive to grow without confidence produces nothing but hesitation and self-sabotage. But together, operating at the same time in the same person, they create something that builds on itself continuously. They create momentum. And this applies everywhere in your life. Not just in professional situations, not just in the high-stakes moments, everywhere. In your relationships, consider what it would look like to act as if you are the best partner, the best friend, the best family member you are capable of being. How would that person communicate? How carefully would they listen? How consistently would they show up? What standard would they hold themselves to? Not because someone demanded it, but because that is simply who they have decided to be. In your health, what would it look like to act as if you are already committed to living at your best physically? What would you choose to eat? How would you train? How would you rest? How would you treat the body that carries you through every single day of this life? In your finances, what would it look like to act as if you are someone with genuine financial intelligence and discipline? How would you spend? How would you save? How would you think about the relationship between your time and your money? This is not daydreaming. This is not passive imagination that you engage in for entertainment and then set aside when the day makes demands on you. This is identity training. This is you rehearsing the life you intend to live until the rehearsal and the living become indistinguishable. And here is another dimension of this that I find genuinely powerful. When you raise your own standards, you influence the people around you without ever saying a word about it. People feel commitment. They notice discipline. They observe excellence when it's actually present in front of them, even if they can't articulate what it is they're seeing. And your example, without any lecture or instruction or pressure, quietly challenges the people in your orbit to consider rising as well. You become a model not by forcing anything on anyone, but simply by embodying what you're talking about. Now let's talk honestly about fear, because fear is part of this conversation, whether we invite it or not. Fear will show up. It always does. Fear of failing in front of people who are watching. Fear of being judged and found lacking. Fear of trying your hardest and discovering that your hardest wasn't enough. Acting as if you are the best does not make any of that fear go away. I am not going to promise you it will. But what it does is teach you to move despite the fear, to take the next step, even while the fear is present and loud and doing everything it can to keep you standing still. Courage has never been the absence of fear. Courage is movement in the presence of it. You feel it, you acknowledge it, and you move anyway. That is where real growth has always lived. And yes, failure will happen. Let me say that plainly. There will be times when you give everything you have and the result does not match the effort. There will be attempts that don't work. There will be moments that humble you. But failure is not a signal to stop. It is information. It is detailed, specific, valuable feedback about what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be improved, what needs to be approached differently. The best performers in any field do not fail less often than everyone else. They process failure faster. They extract the lesson more efficiently. They adjust and return to the work more quickly. That is the relationship with failure you are building when you adopt this mindset. One more trap that must be named and avoided: comparison. In the world we're living in right now, comparison is everywhere, and it is relentless, and it is designed to make you feel behind. When you act as if you are the best, your focus shifts away from other people's timelines and other people's progress and other people's highlight reels. It shifts back to the only competition that has ever actually mattered, the one between who you were yesterday and who you are today. Am I better than I was? Have I grown? Have I learned something? Have I done the work? That is the only scoreboard worth keeping. That is where real, sustainable progress is built. Visualization is a tool worth adding deliberately to this practice. Every day, take a few minutes, it doesn't need to be long, to genuinely see yourself performing at your best. Not in a vague, unfocused way, but specifically. See yourself communicating clearly and confidently in a situation that has previously made you uncertain. See yourself handling a challenge with composure and problem solving and the kind of steady clarity that you admire in others. See yourself achieving the specific goal you are working toward. This is not fantasy. It is mental conditioning. Your brain begins to recognize this version of you as familiar, as normal, as expected. And when the brain recognizes something as normal, behavior moves in that direction automatically. Pay close attention to your language, because language shapes thought in ways that run deeper than most people realize. Begin replacing "I'll try" with "I will." Replace "I hope" with "I expect." Replace "I can't" with "how can I." These are not trivial word swaps. They are recalibrations of your internal operating system, and over time, they change the quality and direction of your thinking in profound ways. Your habits are the foundation under all of this. When you genuinely commit to acting as if you are the best, your daily habits begin to shift because they must. You become more intentional about how you spend your time. You become more focused, more deliberate, less willing to pour your hours into things that don't serve the person you are becoming. You prioritize growth because growth is what the highest version of you does. And these small daily changes, ones that might seem almost too minor to matter in any given moment, accumulate over time into something genuinely massive. Consistency is the mechanism that makes all of this work. Not intensity, not dramatic gestures, not the moments where you feel most motivated and capable. Consistency. Showing up every single day, and especially on the days when you don't feel like it, because those are precisely the days that build the deepest layers of identity and confidence and real self-trust. Finally, understand this at the deepest level you can. Acting as if you are the best is not about becoming someone other than yourself. It is not a performance you put on for the world's benefit. It is about becoming your own highest self, the version of you that already exists somewhere inside, that has always existed, but that has not yet been fully expressed because of fear or doubt or the weight of old stories about who you are and what you're capable of. That version is real. It is not imaginary. It is not wishful thinking. It is the you that emerges when you stop shrinking and start committing. So starting right now, today, walk with confidence, speak with clarity, think with intention, act with purpose. Do not wait to feel ready, because ready is not a feeling that arrives before the action. It is a feeling that develops because of it. Do not wait for someone else to give you permission. Do not wait for conditions to be perfect. Start now, exactly as you are, with everything you already have, and let the doing transform you into everything you're reaching for. Because the moment you truly decide to step into that identity, not one day, not eventually, but now, everything begins to change. And over time, what began as an act becomes something else entirely. It becomes who you truly are.